My name is Sophia Chen. And this is the story of how I went from sleeping on my grandmother's couch to building a billion-dollar fashion empire. But it all started with one letter, one scholarship, and one dream that nearly destroyed me. I grew up in a tiny apartment in Queens. My mother worked 3 jobs. My father? He left when I was 7. But my grandmother, she believed in me. She taught me to sew on her ancient Singer machine. Sophia, she'd say in her broken English, beautiful things come from broken places. I never understood what she meant. Until Paris. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Institut Français de la Mode. Full scholarship. I screamed so loud our neighbor called the police. My mother cried. Not from joy. From fear. Paris will change you, she warned. Rich people, they don't want girls like us in their world. She was right. But I went anyway. The first time I saw Paris, I understood why people fall in love with cities. The light was different here. Golden. Like everything was touched by magic. My dorm room was smaller than my closet back home. But outside my window, the Eiffel Tower. I was home. The other students scared me. They had names I couldn't pronounce. Handbags worth more than my mother's car. They spoke about fashion houses like they were family friends. Because they were. You're the scholarship girl, said Margot Dubois. Her father owned 3 luxury boutiques. Her mother was a former Vogue editor. How refreshing. The way she said it made my skin burn. But I had something they didn't. Hunger. While they partied at expensive clubs, I stayed up until 3 a.m. Sketching. Sewing. Dreaming. My fingers bled from needle pricks. My eyes burned from tiny stitches. But every dress I made was perfect. My professor, Madame Rousseau, noticed. This is exceptional work, Sophia. You have le don. The gift. She pulled me aside after class. There's a private showing next week. Invitation only. The most powerful people in fashion will be there. My heart stopped. They don't usually invite students. But your work, it deserves to be seen. I'd never seen so much wealth in one room. Women dripped in diamonds. Men wore watches worth more than college tuition. The air smelled like expensive perfume and power. I clutched my portfolio like a shield. You look terrified, laughed a voice behind me. I turned. A woman in her 50s, elegant, intimidating. Her dress was Chanel. Her jewelry was art. I'm Isabella Moreau, she said. Fashion director at Le Monde du Luxe. My hands shook. I knew that name. She could make or break careers with one article. Show me, she commanded. I opened my portfolio. My sketches looked amateur next to all this luxury. But she studied each one carefully. Interesting. Very authentic. She paused. Raw. Was that good or bad? You're the scholarship girl everyone's talking about. Everyone was talking about me? Your work has something these trust fund babies will never understand. Desperation. It makes artists dangerous. Before I could ask what she meant, she was gone. The next hour was torture. I tried to introduce myself to fashion executives. They looked through me like I was invisible. My accent wasn't right. My dress wasn't expensive enough. I was nobody. I was about to leave when someone grabbed my arm. Don't you dare run away. It was Thomas Beaumont. I recognized him from fashion magazines. His family owned the most exclusive fabric mills in France. He was gorgeous, arrogant, and completely out of my league. You're Sophia Chen. The girl with the incredible sketches. How did he know my name? Isabella showed me your portfolio. It's revolutionary. Revolutionary? My sketches? Walk with me, he said. We stepped onto a private balcony overlooking the Seine. You don't belong here, he said bluntly. My heart sank. That's what makes you special. Everyone in that room was born into luxury. They designed for people like themselves. But you? You understand what real women want. What they dream of wearing. He leaned closer. Too close. I want to help you. I have connections. Investors. People who could change your life. Why would you help me? He smiled. It was beautiful and terrifying. Because talent like yours only comes along once in a generation. And I always bet on winners. 3 days later, I received a call. Unknown number. Miss Chen? My name is Alexander Volkov. The name meant nothing to me. But his voice, it commanded attention. I understand you're quite talented. I'd like to meet. Who are you? Someone who makes dreams come true. For the right price. He gave me an address. The 16th arrondissement. The most expensive district in Paris. The mansion was obscene. Marble everything. Art worth millions. Staff who moved like ghosts. Alexander Volkov wasn't what I expected. Mid-40s, silver hair, eyes like winter storms. He wore simplicity like armor. A black suit that probably cost more than my tuition. Sit, he commanded. I sat. I've been watching you, Sophia. Your work is promising. He'd been watching me? I collect rare things. Art. Wine. Talent. He poured himself vodka. Didn't offer me anything. I'm prepared to invest in your future. What kind of investment? Complete creative control. Unlimited budget. Access to the finest materials in the world. Your own atelier. Your own show during Fashion Week. My head spun. This was impossible. Too good to be true. What's the catch? He laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. Smart girl. The catch is simple. I own everything. Your designs. Your name. Your success. Until you pay me back. With interest. How much interest? That depends on how successful you become. He slid a contract across the marble table. It was thick. Intimidating. Take your time. But not too much time. Opportunities like this don't wait. I walked the streets of Paris for hours. Past the Louvre. Along the Champs-Élysées. Through narrow alleys where artists sold paintings for tourists. My grandmother's voice echoed in my head. Beautiful things come from broken places. Was this beautiful? Or was I about to be broken? I called my mother. Mama, what if I told you someone wanted to give me everything I've ever dreamed of? I'd ask what they want in return, she said immediately. Maybe my soul, I whispered. Then you better decide if your soul is worth your dreams. I returned to the mansion that evening. Alexander was waiting in his study, reading financial reports in Russian. Have you decided? I thought about my grandmother's bleeding fingers as she sewed. My mother's exhausted face after 16-hour days. The scholarship students who'd never get chances like this. Yes. And? I picked up the golden pen he'd left beside the contract. I'll take the deal. I signed my name. Sophia Chen. The letters looked so small on such an important document. Alexander smiled. It should have been triumphant. Instead, it felt predatory. Welcome to the big leagues, little designer. Try not to disappoint me. As I walked out of that mansion, I felt everything change. The air tasted different. The city looked different. I was different. I just sold my soul to a devil in Armani. And I couldn't wait to see what he'd do with it. I thought I was the luckiest girl in the world. What I didn't know was that Alexander Volkov didn't make investments. He made acquisitions. And I'd just become his newest property. Some dreams come true. Others come for you. I was about to learn the difference. With Alexander's backing, my first collection is taking shape. But success comes with a price. The critics are calling you a fraud, Sophia. Did you really think no one would notice? Maybe your investor isn't who you think he is. Everything I've worked for, it's all falling apart. They say success has 1,000 fathers. But failure? Failure is an orphan. 3 months ago, I was nobody. Today, fashion magazines are calling me a thief. A fraud. A fake. And the man who made me. He's nowhere to be found. But let me tell you how it really happened. How one collection changed everything. And how I learned that in the fashion world, your biggest supporter can become your deadliest enemy. My name is Sophia Chen. I was just a scholarship girl from Queens with impossible dreams. Then I met Alexander Volkov. A mysterious Russian billionaire who offered me everything I'd ever wanted. Complete creative control. Unlimited budget. My own fashion house. All I had to do was sign a contract. And trust him completely. I thought I was the luckiest girl alive. What I didn't know was that Alexander Volkov never makes investments. He makes acquisitions. And I had just become his newest property. Alexander kept his promises. My new atelier was a palace. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seine. Italian marble floors. The finest equipment money could buy. I had 12 seamstresses, each one more skilled than professors at fashion school. But palaces can feel like prisons, especially when you know someone else holds the key. Alexander hired my entire team. My assistant, Marie, spoke 5 languages and had worked for Chanel. My head seamstress, Gabriella, had sewn for Italian royalty. My pattern maker, Hans, was German precision incarnate. They were perfect. Too perfect. "Good morning, everyone," I said, trying to project confidence I didn't feel. "Today we begin something extraordinary." Marie handed me a tablet. Our budget appeared on screen. 2 million euros. For one collection. My throat went dry. I'd never seen so many zeros. "Miss Chin," Hans said in his methodical way, "we need to discuss timeline. Fashion Week is in 8 weeks. For a debut collection of this caliber, we typically need 12 weeks minimum. 8 weeks. To create magic. To prove I deserve to be here." "Then we don't sleep," I said. Gabriella laughed. It wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. "Kara, sleep is not luxury we can afford. But talent? Talent cannot be rushed." Was that a compliment or a warning? I threw myself into designing like my life depended on it. Because it did. Alexander called every morning at exactly 9 a.m. Never to check on me. Always to check on his investment. "How is progress, little designer?" "Good. Great. The sketches are coming together beautifully." "Sketches are just dreams on paper, Sophia. I need reality. I need perfection." The line went dead. He always hung up first. My grandmother used to say that pressure makes diamonds. But pressure also breaks things. I was about to find out which one I was. I called my team together. My hands shook as I unveiled my sketches. 12 pieces. Each one a love letter to everything I'd learned about luxury. The silence stretched forever. Finally, Gabriella spoke. "These are beautiful." "But?" I prompted. "But they are safe," Hans added. "Very competent. Very expected." My heart sank. Safe was the kiss of death in fashion. Marie leaned forward. "With respect, Miss Chin, these designs could come from any luxury house. Where is Sophia Chen? Where is your voice?" That night, I tore up every sketch. Started over. Went deeper. Got dangerous. The breakthrough came at 3 a.m. I was exhausted. Defeated. Ready to call Alexander and surrender. Then I looked out my window at Paris sleeping below. All those lights. All those dreams. I thought about my grandmother's sewing machine. The one that taught me magic could come from broken places. What if I made luxury from memories? What if I took the pain of being poor and turned it into beauty for the rich? I sketched until sunrise. Pieces that told stories. A ball gown inspired by my mother's work uniforms but made from silk that cost more per yard than she earned in a week. A blazer cut like my father's abandoned jacket but tailored from the finest Italian wool. Jewelry that looked like subway tokens but was crafted from platinum and diamonds. When my team saw the new designs, everything changed. "Now this," Gabriella whispered, "this is revolution." Creating the actual pieces was war. Every stitch had to be perfect. Every seam had to sing. We worked 18-hour days. My fingers bled. My eyes burned. My assistant brought me coffee every hour and food I never ate. The pressure was crushing everyone. Hans quit. I begged him to stay. Offered him double salary. He looked at me with something that might have been pity. "Money cannot buy time, Miss Chen. And we do not have enough of either." He was right. But I couldn't stop. Stopping meant admitting I wasn't worthy of Alexander's investment. Stopping meant going back to Queens with nothing but debt and shame. Alexander sent the models. I had no say in casting. They arrived like an army of perfection. 6 feet tall. Impossible cheekbones. Eyes that had seen everything and cared about nothing. The lead model was Katerina Petrov. Russian. Beautiful as winter and twice as cold. "So you are the little designer everyone whispers about," she said, looking me up and down like I was merchandise. "I'm Sophia Chen. I know who you are. Question is, do you know who you are?" Before I could ask what she meant, she was gone. Models, I was learning, spoke in riddles and moved like ghosts. The last week before the show was chaos. 3 pieces weren't finished. 2 models had the flu. 1 dress split during final fitting. I hadn't slept in 36 hours. I looked like death and felt worse. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried. Really cried. For the first time since signing Alexander's contract. In the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. When had I become so thin? So hollow-eyed? So desperate? My phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. Some dreams are nightmares in disguise. Be careful who you trust. A friend. A friend? I had no friends. Not anymore. Success had isolated me completely. The morning of the show, Paris felt different. Electric. Dangerous. Fashion Week was sacred time in this city. Careers were made or destroyed in 15 minutes on a runway. Alexander arrived at my atelier at 8 a.m. He looked like money personified. Armani suit. Swiss watch. Confidence that came from owning everything you touched. Today, little designer, we see if you are worth my investment. And if I'm not? His smile was arctic. Then we renegotiate our arrangement. The way he said it made my blood freeze. This wasn't just about money. This was about ownership. Of my work. Of my future. Of me. Backstage was controlled chaos. Hair and makeup artists worked like surgeons. Models transformed from beautiful women into living works of art. My designs hung on racks like sleeping dreams waiting to wake up. I checked every piece obsessively. Adjusted every strap. Smoothed every seam. Gabriella had to physically stop me from making changes. Cara, at some point you must trust your vision. The pieces are perfection. Now we pray the world sees what we see. Isabella Moreau appeared beside me like smoke. The fashion editor who had first noticed me at that salon. Nervous? She asked. Terrified, I admitted. Good. Terror makes artists honest. And honesty is what fashion has been missing. She leaned closer. But be careful, Sherry. Success makes enemies. And you are about to have many. When the first model stepped onto that runway, time stopped. My subway token earrings caught the lights like captured stars. The audience leaned forward. I could feel their attention like heat. Piece after piece, my collection told its story. Poverty transformed into luxury. Pain refined into beauty. Every model was a chapter in my journey from nothing to everything. The final dress was my masterpiece. Katerina wore it like armor made of dreams. Hand-beaded with crystals arranged like my grandmother's sewing machine stitches. It caught every light in the room and threw it back as magic. When she reached the end of the runway, the silence was absolute. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. Then they were standing. Screaming. Crying. I had done it. I had actually done it. The next hour was a blur of congratulations and champagne. Fashion editors surrounded me like hungry birds. Everyone wanted quotes. Everyone wanted to be associated with success. Sophia, darling. This was magnificent. Where did you study? Who taught you? Are you taking interviews? My magazine would love to feature you. Isabella found me in the crowd. Her expression was unreadable. You have done something very dangerous tonight, she said. What do you mean? You have shown them something new. Something they did not expect. The fashion world forgives many things. But it never forgives surprise. Before I could ask what she meant, Alexander appeared. His smile was proprietary. Possessive. My little designer has exceeded expectations, he announced to everyone nearby. This is just the beginning of our partnership. Our partnership. The way he said it made me sound like junior partner in my own success. By midnight, the congratulations started mixing with whispers. I caught fragments of conversations as people thought I wasn't listening. The designs are beautiful, but do they seem familiar to you? I swear I've seen that silhouette before. Maybe in an old Balenciaga sketch. Where exactly did she study? Institut Français doesn't usually produce this level of sophistication. And who is this Russian investor? No one knows anything about him. My champagne tasted like ash. The celebration felt like a funeral. My funeral. I woke up in my atelier. Still in my dress from the night before. My head pounded from champagne and adrenaline crash. For 30 seconds I felt pure joy. Then I remembered the whispers. My phone had exploded. Hundreds of messages. Interview requests. Collaboration offers. For a moment I thought maybe I'd imagined the negativity. Then I saw the missed calls from Alexander. 15 of them. Between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. My blood went cold. He never called that early unless something was wrong. He was waiting in my office. Behind my desk. Like he owned it. Which, technically, he did. We need to talk, he said without preamble. About what? The show was a success. Everyone loved the collection. Everyone except the people who matter. He slid a tablet across the desk. Fashion blogs were already analyzing my show. Most were positive. Glowing, even. But a few were asking questions. Where has Sophia Chen been hiding? He read aloud. These designs show sophistication that typically takes decades to develop. How does a scholarship student from Queens create museum-quality work in 3 months? My stomach dropped. They're just curious about my background. Curiosity killed more than cats, little designer. It kills careers. He stood and walked to the window. There will be more questions. More scrutiny. Are you prepared for that level of attention? I have nothing to hide. He turned back to me. His expression was almost sympathetic. Almost. Everyone has something to hide, Sophia. The question is, will yours destroy us both? That afternoon, Thomas Beaumont appeared at my atelier like a ghost from my past. He looked exactly the same. Handsome. Confident. Dangerous. I saw the show, he said, running his fingers along one of my jackets. Extraordinary work. Thank you. But that's not why I'm here. He turned to face me fully. People are talking, Sophia. Important people. And not all of it is good. My heart sank. What kind of talk? The kind that ends careers before they begin. Someone is spreading rumors. Saying your designs aren't original. That you had help. Unauthorized help. That's ridiculous. Every piece came from my imagination. I believe you. But belief isn't fact in this industry. Perception is reality. He stepped closer. Too close. I can help you. I have connections. People who owe me favors. But... He paused. You'd have to trust me. Completely. Why did everyone want me to trust them completely? And why did complete trust always feel like complete surrender? That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Thomas's warning. Someone was spreading rumors. But who? And why? I spent hours online. Looking at old collections. Comparing silhouettes. Searching for any similarity to my designs. The paranoia was eating me alive. At 3 a.m. I found it. A single sketch in an obscure fashion archive. From a 1960s Balenciaga collection that never went to production, the neckline was similar to one of my dresses. Not identical, but similar enough. My hands shook as I studied the image. Had I unconsciously copied it? Had I seen it somewhere and forgotten? Or was this exactly what someone wanted me to find? The next morning, Marie was waiting in my office. Her usual composed demeanor was cracked. She looked frightened. Miss Chen, we need to discuss something urgent. What is it? Yesterday, after the show, a journalist approached me. He was asking questions about your design process. Specifically, he wanted to know if you had access to private archives. Historical sketches. Unreleased collections. My blood turned to ice. What did you tell him? Nothing. But he already knew things. About your schedule. About the materials we ordered. About the seamstresses we hired. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Someone with inside access is feeding him information. Who? I don't know. But whoever it is, they know everything about your operation. Everything. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. Someone in my own team was sabotaging me. But who? And why? The article went live at exactly noon on Thursday. Fashion Telegraph. The most influential fashion blog in Europe. The headline made me physically sick. Stolen Dreams. The Sophia Chen plagiarism scandal. The article was devastating. Side-by-side comparisons of my designs with historical pieces. Similar silhouettes. Comparable proportions. The writer, someone named Marcus Thornfield, had done his homework. But the worst part wasn't the accusations. It was how detailed they were. He knew things only someone with intimate knowledge of my process could know. He knew about the 3 a.m. breakthrough. About the sketches I'd destroyed. About my inspiration sources. Someone close to me had betrayed me completely. Alexander arrived within an hour of the article going live. But he wasn't angry. He was calm. Too calm. Sit down, Sophia. I sat. I had no choice. This is unfortunate, he said, reading the article on his phone. Very unfortunate indeed. It's all lies. I never plagiarized anything. Of course not. But lies can be more powerful than truth. Especially when they're well-researched lies. He looked at me with something that might have been pity. The question now is damage control. How do we save your career? How do we protect my investment? We fight back. We prove the accusations are false. He laughed. It was a terrible sound. Sweet child. You still don't understand how this world works. Truth doesn't matter. Only power matters. And right now, someone with more power than you wants you destroyed. Who? That is the €1,000,000 question, isn't it? He stood to leave, then paused at the door. "Don't worry, little designer. I always protect my investments. But protection comes with a price." And that price just went up considerably. After Alexander left, I sat alone in my atelier. The space that had felt like a palace now felt like a tomb. Everything I'd worked for was crumbling. That's when I noticed it. Alexander's briefcase. He'd left it behind. Probably accidentally. Or maybe not so accidentally. Inside, I found documents, financial records, communication logs, and correspondence with Marcus Thornfield, the journalist who had written the article destroying my career. The payments started 3 weeks before my show. Regular installments. The final payment was scheduled for today, the day after the article went live. Alexander hadn't just failed to protect me from the scandal. He had orchestrated it. But why? Why build me up just to tear me down? Then I found the final document. A contract amendment. If my reputation was damaged beyond repair, all rights to my designs would revert to him. Permanently. For a fraction of their actual value. I wasn't just his investment. I was his puppet. And he had been pulling the strings from the very beginning. As I sat there, holding the evidence of Alexander's betrayal, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. Miss Chen? This is Marcus Thornfield. I think we should meet. There are things you need to know about your Russian investor. Things that could clear your name. But you need to come alone. And you need to come now." The line went dead. I looked at the evidence in my hands. Then at my destroyed reputation online. Then at my empty atelier that no longer felt like home. Alexander had set the perfect trap. But maybe, just maybe, I was about to spring one of my own. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. But in the fashion world, revenge is haute couture. Beautiful, expensive, and absolutely devastating. And I was about to become a master designer. I thought Alexander was my savior. Turns out he was my executioner. Marcus said, "Your investor has done this before. To other designers. Other dreams. But if he wants to play games with my life, then let's see who plays them better. Rival thinks she's weak now. Vulnerable. This is our chance to destroy her completely." The plagiarism scandal was supposed to destroy me. Fashion blogs called me a fraud. Critics whispered I was a fake. Alexander Volkov, my mysterious Russian investor, had orchestrated the entire takedown to steal my designs. But what he didn't know was that I had found his evidence. And I was about to use it against him. 3 days after the scandal broke, salvation arrived in the form of gold-embossed invitation. Monaco. The annual Côte d'Azur luxury summit. Every fashion mogul, every billionaire collector, every power player in the industry would be there. This wasn't just a party. This was my chance to fight back. But revenge in the luxury world comes with diamonds and daggers. And I was about to learn that everyone has both. The invitation was hand-delivered by a woman in Hermes. No introduction. No explanation. Just a cream-colored card with my name written in actual gold ink. Inside, elegant script announced the exclusive gathering hosted by Victoria Sterling, the British fashion heiress who owned half the luxury boutiques in Europe. The timing felt like destiny. Or a trap. After 3 days of hiding in my atelier, watching my career burn on social media, this felt like a lifeline. Maybe my last one. The dress code was simple. Wear something unforgettable. In the fashion world, that was both invitation and challenge. I had exactly 48 hours to create something that would remind everyone why they fell in love with my work in the first place. I called Gabriella, my head seamstress. She hadn't spoken to me since the scandal broke. Most of my team had distanced themselves. Careers were fragile things, and associating with scandal could destroy them too. Her voice was cautious when she answered. Protective. "Kara, how are you holding up?" The kindness in her voice almost broke me. I had forgotten what support felt like. "I need your help, Gabriella. One more time. I'm going to Monaco." Silence stretched between us. Then, quietly, "What do you need?" "A miracle. Those I can sew." We had 36 hours. Gabriella arrived at my atelier with her sewing kit and a bottle of wine. She looked around at the space that had once hummed with creative energy. Now it felt like a mausoleum. "So," she said, pouring wine into coffee cups, "what are we making?" "Armor disguised as a dress." She laughed, the first genuine sound I'd heard in days. "Now you're speaking my language." I pulled out my sketches. Black silk crepe. Hand-beaded with crystals arranged like scales. A dress that would catch every light in the room and reflect it back as power. The neckline would be severe, unforgiving. The silhouette would command attention without begging for it. "This," Gabriella said, studying the design, "this is war." "Good. Because that's exactly what this is." We worked through the night. No music. No conversation. Just the steady rhythm of needles through silk and the occasional clink of wine glasses. Gabriella's fingers moved like they were conducting an orchestra. Every stitch was perfect. Every bead was placed with surgical precision. At dawn, she held up the finished dress. In the morning light, it looked like liquid shadow given form. Dangerous and beautiful in equal measure. "Now you look like someone who could own the world," she said. "Or burn it down. Sometimes those are the same thing." The flight to Monaco was my first taste of luxury travel. Alexander had arranged everything. First class. Champagne on arrival. A car that cost more than most people's homes. He was still playing his game, still pretending to be my benefactor. But now I knew the rules. During the flight, I researched every guest who would be at the party. Victoria Sterling, our host, had built her empire by acquiring struggling luxury brands and transforming them into global powerhouses. She was known for discovering talent. And for destroying anyone who disappointed her. There would be Russian oligarchs who collected fashion like art. Arab princes who commissioned entire collections for their wives. American tech billionaires who bought luxury brands as trophies. These weren't just wealthy people. These were the puppet masters who controlled the entire industry. And somewhere among them would be whoever had helped Alexander orchestrate my downfall. The helicopter ride from Nice to Monaco gave me my first glimpse of the Mediterranean elite playground. Super yachts dotted the harbor like floating cities. The casino glittered like a jewel box. Money had transformed every surface into something precious. But money, I was learning, was just the entry fee to this world. Power was the real currency. And I was about to find out how much I had left to spend. Victoria Sterling's yacht was not a boat. It was a floating palace. 300 feet of Italian engineering and British taste. The upper deck had been transformed into an outdoor ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung from rigging. White silk billowed in the Mediterranean breeze. Servers in perfect uniforms moved like dancers between guests who collectively own more wealth than most countries. I stepped aboard wearing my armor. The dress moved like liquid night around me. The beating caught the setting sun and threw it back as fire. Conversations paused as I passed. Whether from recognition or admiration, I couldn't tell. But at least they were looking. Victoria Sterling found me within minutes. She was smaller than I expected, but her presence filled rooms. Silver hair cut in a perfect bob. Jewelry that museums would kill for. Eyes that missed nothing and forgave less. "The infamous Sophia Chin," she said, extending a hand heavy with rings. "You're either very brave or very foolish to show your face here. Maybe both." She laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "I like honesty. It's so rare at these gatherings. Walk with me. There are people you need to meet. And people you need to avoid." As we moved through the crowd, she provided commentary like a tour guide through hell. "That's Dmitry Kozlov. Made his fortune in Russian steel. Now he collects fashion houses like some men collect stamps. Very interested in acquiring distressed assets." A chill ran down my spine. Was I a distressed asset? "And there's Marcus Chen, no relation to you, I assume. Singaporean tech mogul. Bought 3 luxury brands last year just because his daughter wanted to play fashion designer." The casual cruelty of wealth was breathtaking. These people bought and sold dreams like commodities. "But the one you really need to watch," Victoria continued, nodding toward a group of impeccably dressed women, "is Celeste Dubois." My blood turned to ice. I knew that name. Margot Dubois, the girl who had tormented me in fashion school, had mentioned her Aunt Celeste. French fashion royalty. Old money. Older grudges. "She's been telling interesting stories about you all evening," Victoria said. "Something about stolen designs and questionable origins." The trap was becoming clear. This wasn't just a party. This was a trial. And I was the defendant. Celeste Dubois held court near the yacht's bow, surrounded by fashion's most influential voices. She was everything old French luxury represented. Elegant. Untouchable. Absolutely ruthless. When she saw me approaching, her smile was arctic. Mademoiselle Chen, she said, making my name sound like an accusation. How lovely that you could join us. Though I must say, after recent events, many of us are surprised to see you at such a gathering. The group around her shifted slightly. Predators sensing blood. Recent events tend to clarify things, I replied. They separate truth from fiction. Friends from enemies. Indeed they do. And what clarity have you found? This was the moment. I could retreat, hide, let them devour what remained of my reputation. Or I could fight back. I've learned that some people in this industry are so threatened by new talent that they'll do anything to destroy it, including fabricating scandals and spreading lies. The words hung in the Mediterranean air like a challenge. Several guests nearby turned to listen. Celeste's smile never wavered, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. How fascinating. And who, in your expert opinion, might be capable of such elaborate deception? Anyone with enough money and small enough character. A few people gasped. You didn't speak to Celeste Dubois that way. Not if you wanted to survive in this industry. But Victoria Sterling appeared beside me like a guardian angel. Ladies, surely we can discuss business later. Tonight is for celebration. She guided me away before Celeste could respond. But the battle lines had been drawn. The next few hours were a masterclass in luxury politics. Every conversation was a negotiation. Every compliment contained a hidden blade. I met oil heiresses who spoke 7 languages and fashion moguls who owned entire city blocks. Some were genuinely intrigued by my work. Despite the scandal, despite the whispers, my designs had made an impression. A Saudi princess commissioning evening wear. A Russian collector interested in exclusive pieces. These people didn't care about gossip. They cared about talent. But others treated me like a curiosity. The scandal-plagued designer who dared to show her face in polite society. They circled like sharks, asking pointed questions about my inspiration sources and my unusual rise to prominence. Through it all, I noticed Thomas Beaumont watching from across the deck. He had been at fashion school with me, had warned me about the rumors spreading in Paris. Now he looked troubled. Conflicted. When our eyes met, he nodded toward a quieter section of the yacht. We met near the stern, away from the main party. The music was softer here. The lights dimmer. More intimate and infinitely more dangerous. You shouldn't have come, he said without preamble. Why? Because I'm not welcome in polite society anymore. Because this isn't a party, Sophia. This is an execution. And you just put your head on the block. My blood chilled. What do you mean? He looked around nervously, then leaned closer. Celeste didn't just spread rumors about you. She orchestrated them. She's been planning your destruction since you first showed promise in school. Why? Because you represent everything she fears. New money. New talent. A new generation that doesn't need her approval to succeed. The pieces were starting to fit together. But there were still gaps in the puzzle. And Alexander? My investor. Thomas's expression darkened. Alexander Volkov is Celeste's business partner. Has been for years. They buy struggling designers' work for pennies, then resell it to major fashion houses for millions. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Alexander hadn't just set me up to fail. He had been working with my enemies from the beginning. Why are you telling me this? Because despite everything, I still believe in your talent. And because what they're planning next is worse than plagiarism accusations. As the evening wore on, the party grew more decadent. The champagne flowed like water. The conversations grew louder and less guarded. Guests retreated to quieter corners for more private discussions. That's when I made my move. I had learned to navigate these spaces like a ghost. Small, overlooked, invisible when I needed to be. While everyone focused on the main entertainment, a private concert by a famous opera singer, I explored the yacht's more intimate spaces. The library was empty except for leather-bound books and the soft glow of reading lamps. Perfect for eavesdropping. I positioned myself behind a bookshelf near the door and waited. Within minutes, voices approached. Celeste Dubois and 2 other women I recognized from fashion magazines. Their conversation was already in progress. The plagiarism scandal was just the beginning, Celeste was saying. Now we move to phase 2. Are you certain she'll go through with another show? Asked one of the others. Of course she will. Pride will demand it. And when she does, we'll be ready. My heart hammered in my chest. They were talking about sabotage. Real sabotage. The models are already arranged, Celeste continued. 3 of them will call in sick the morning of the show. The others have been instructed to stumble at strategic moments. And the technical issues? The third voice asked. Sound system failure. Lighting problems. Missing accessories. By the time we're finished, her show will be a complete disaster. No one will ever take her seriously again. They were going to destroy my next collection before it even reached the runway. Everything I had worked for, everything I had built, would be reduced to professional humiliation. What about Volkov? Is he still cooperating? Alexander will play his part perfectly. He's quite good at pretending to support someone while undermining them completely. The women laughed like they were discussing the weather instead of destroying someone's life and career. She has no idea what's coming, Celeste said with satisfaction. By this time next month, Sophia Chen will be nothing but a cautionary tale about the dangers of ambition. As their footsteps faded away, I remained hidden behind the bookshelf, my mind racing. They had revealed their entire plan. Model sabotage. Technical failures. Complete professional humiliation. But knowledge was power. And now I had both. I pulled out my phone and quickly typed everything I had overheard into my notes. Names, dates, specific plans. Evidence. Then I did something that felt both terrifying and liberating. I started recording. Making my way back to the main party, I mingled with renewed purpose. Every conversation was now strategic. Every smile was calculated. If they wanted to play games, I would show them how it was done. I found Victoria Sterling near the champagne fountain, holding court with several influential buyers. Victoria, I said, approaching with careful confidence, I wanted to thank you for the invitation. This has been illuminating. Has it indeed? And what illuminations have you gained? That some people in this industry mistake cruelty for cleverness. But true power comes from creating something beautiful, not destroying someone else's work. She studied me with sharp eyes. Wise words. I hope you have the strength to live by them. I'm about to find out. As the evening wound down, guests began departing for their various accommodations. Some had suites at the Hotel de Paris. Others had their own yachts anchored nearby. I was staying at a boutique hotel in Monte Carlo, courtesy of Alexander's continuing charade of support. But before leaving, I had one final move to make. I found Alexander near the yacht's bar, nursing a glass of vodka and surveying the departing guests like a general reviewing his troops. When he saw me approaching, his expression shifted to concerned mentor mode. Sophia, my dear, you handled yourself well tonight. Despite the circumstances. The circumstances you created. For just a moment, his mask slipped. Something cold and calculating flickered in his eyes. Then the concerned mentor returned. I'm not sure what you mean. I know about Celeste. I know about the partnership. I know about the plan to sabotage my next show. This time, the mask didn't slip. It shattered completely. The Alexander who stood before me now was the real one. Cold. Ruthless. Completely unrepentant. Knowledge without power is just information, little designer. And you have no power here. Don't I? I pulled out my phone and played a snippet of the recording. Celeste's voice filled the space between us, describing their sabotage plans in detail. Alexander's expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened around his glass. Interesting. But ultimately meaningless. Who would you tell? Who would believe you? You're already damaged goods in this industry. Maybe. But damage can be repaired. Reputations can be rebuilt. Revenge, on the other hand, is forever. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Alexander? Thank you for the lesson. You taught me that in this business, you can't trust anyone. Not even the people who claim to love your work. As I walked away, I heard him call after me. This isn't over, Sophia. You have no idea what you're up against. He was wrong about one thing. I knew exactly what I was up against. An entire industry built on secrets, lies, and the destruction of dreams. But what he didn't know was that I had just declared war. And I always played to win. Back in my hotel suite, I spent the night planning my counterattack. The recording was just the beginning. I had names, dates, specific sabotage plans. But more importantly, I had something they didn't expect. the willingness to burn everything down if necessary. As dawn broke over Monaco, painting the Mediterranean gold and pink, I made my decision. I wouldn't just defend myself against their sabotage. I would expose the entire conspiracy. The plagiarism scandal, the orchestrated downfall, the planned destruction of my next collection. But first, I needed allies. Real allies. People with power who weren't already corrupted by the system. I thought about Victoria Sterling's parting words. True power comes from creating something beautiful, not destroying someone else's work. Maybe she was testing me. Maybe she was offering help. There was only one way to find out. I picked up the phone and dialed her private number. She answered on the first ring as if she'd been expecting my call. Good morning, Sophia. I trust you slept well. Actually, I didn't sleep at all. I was too busy planning my revenge. She laughed. That sounded like breaking crystal again. Revenge is exhausting, darling. But justice? Justice can be quite energizing. Are you offering to help me? I'm offering you a choice. You can run back to Paris, hide from their sabotage, and let them win. Or you can fight back with everything you have. And if I choose to fight? Then you'll learn what real power looks like. And they'll learn why you never underestimate a designer with nothing left to lose. The line went quiet for a moment. Then Victoria added, almost casually, by the way, darling, I've been recording conversations at my parties for years. Insurance, you understand. And last night's recordings are quite fascinating. My heart stopped. She had been testing me. And apparently I had passed. What happens now? Now? Now we show them what happens when they mistake kindness for weakness. Prepare yourself, Sophia. The real war is just beginning. As I hung up the phone, a new message appeared on my phone. Unknown number, as always. But this time, the words made my blood run cold. Enjoyed your conversation last night. But you missed the best part. Check your email. You have 48 hours to withdraw from Fashion Week, or the photos go public. And these photos will destroy more than just your career. They'll destroy everyone you care about. Choose wisely. A friend. My hands shook as I opened my email. The photos were there, waiting like digital poison. Photos of my mother. My grandmother. My few remaining friends. All taken recently. All from close range. The message was clear. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was personal. And if I continued fighting, innocent people would pay the price. But as I stared at those threatening images, something strange happened. Instead of fear, I felt fury. Pure, crystalline rage. They thought they could break me by threatening the people I loved. Instead, they had just given me the one thing I needed most. A reason to win at any cost. I looked out at the Monaco harbor, at the super yachts and the glittering casino, at the playground of the ultra-wealthy who thought they could buy and sell human dreams. They were about to learn that some things couldn't be purchased. Like talent. Like determination. Like revenge served at exactly the right temperature. The game had just changed. And I was about to show them how a girl from Queens plays chess with billionaires. The photos in my inbox weren't just blackmail. They were art. Professional quality. Taken from impossible angles. Someone with serious resources had been watching me for weeks. The final image made my heart stop completely. Alexander and me at a private dinner, his hand covering mine across the table. The angle made it look intimate. Romantic. Scandalous. Except we had never had dinner together. Ever. I had been home that night working on sketches. But the photo was perfect. Lighting, shadows, expressions. Someone had either followed us to a meeting that never happened or they had created the impossible. Digital manipulation had become the new weapon of choice in the fashion world. And I was about to become its next victim. I stared at the image for hours, analyzing every pixel. The restaurant was Alain Ducasse in Paris. The most expensive dining room in the city. The photo showed Alexander leaning forward, speaking intimately while I gazed at him with what looked like adoration. My dress was one I owned. His suit was his usual Armani. Everything was perfect except for one detail. The necklace I was wearing in the photo had been stolen from my apartment 3 weeks earlier. I had reported it to police. Filed insurance claims. How could I be wearing stolen jewelry to a dinner that never happened? I called my assistant Marie, the only person on my team I still trusted completely. Marie, I need you to check something for me. 3 weeks ago, Tuesday night, where was I? Tuesday, let me check your calendar. You were at the atelier until midnight, working on the beading for the emerald gown. Gabriella and I both saw you leave. Are you certain? Absolutely. You ordered Thai food around 10 p.m. We ate together while you worked. Why? I sent her the photo. The silence on the other end stretched painfully. This is impossible, she finally said. You were never at this dinner. But this photo, it looks completely real. That's because it was meant to. Someone wants the world to think Alexander and I are having an affair. The question is why? The answer came within hours. A text message from an unknown number. The photos go public in 24 hours unless you withdraw from Fashion Week. Last chance. But I had spent the sleepless night making a different decision. Instead of backing down, I was going nuclear. Victoria Sterling's office occupied the top floor of a building that overlooked the Seine. Everything was white marble and gold fixtures. Art that museums coveted hung casually on walls. This was power made physical. She stood with her back to me, looking out at Paris below. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had never been denied anything. Show me what they sent you. I handed over my phone. She studied each photo with the clinical detachment of a surgeon examining X-rays. When she reached the restaurant image, she paused. Impressive work. The lighting is particularly well done. Whoever created this has serious resources and serious skills. Created? You can tell it's fake. She turned from the window, her smile sharp as crystal. Darling, I've been in this business for 30 years. I know the difference between reality and theater. The question is whether anyone else will. She walked to her desk and pressed a button. Within seconds, a man in his 50s entered. Expensive suit, careful posture, eyes that missed nothing. Sophia, meet Marcus Webb. He handles delicate situations for discerning clients. Marcus nodded politely but said nothing. His presence felt like having a loaded weapon in the room. Marcus specializes in digital forensics. If these photos are fabricated, he'll prove it. If they're real. Victoria's smile turned predatory. Well, then we'll have different problems to solve. I handed Marcus my phone. He studied the images with professional intensity, zooming in on details, checking metadata, examining shadows and lighting angles. These are sophisticated fakes, he said after several minutes. Deepfake technology combined with traditional photo manipulation. Expensive work. We're talking about a budget in the hundreds of thousands. The relief was overwhelming. They were fake. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't losing my memory. Someone had spent serious money to frame me. Can you prove it in court? Victoria asked. With time and the right equipment, yes. But proving something is fake takes longer than people believe it's real. Once these images go public, the damage will be immediate and devastating. Victoria walked to her window again, thinking. Then we need to control the narrative before they can release it. How? By telling the truth first. On our terms. In our way. Within 3 hours, Victoria had arranged something impossible. An exclusive interview with Fashion Forward magazine, the industry's most influential publication. Not just any interview, but a cover story. With the editor-in-chief personally conducting the questioning. Isabella will be fair, Victoria explained as we rode to the magazine's offices. But she won't be gentle. She's going to ask about Alexander, about the plagiarism accusations, about everything. Be honest about what you can prove. Be careful about what you can't. Isabella Moreau was exactly as I remembered from that first salon. Elegant, intimidating, and absolutely ruthless. She conducted interviews like a surgeon performed operations. Precise, methodical, and potentially life-saving or fatal. We sat in her private office, surrounded by covers featuring the most famous faces in fashion. A photographer captured every moment, every expression, every gesture. Let's begin with the obvious question, Isabella said. Are you having an affair with your investor, Alexander Volkov? The bluntness was breathtaking. But I was ready. No. Alexander Volkov is a business partner. Nothing more. We have never socialized outside of professional meetings. We have never dined together privately. Any suggestion otherwise is fabricated. Strong words. But there are photos. Photos can be manipulated. Technology exists to create any image someone wants to create. The question isn't whether fake photos exist. The question is why someone would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to create them. Isabella leaned forward. And what's your theory? That certain people in this industry are so threatened by new talent that they'll destroy careers rather than compete fairly. The plagiarism accusations were just the beginning. This is escalation. You're suggesting a conspiracy. I'm stating facts. Someone orchestrated the plagiarism scandal. Someone is now fabricating evidence of personal impropriety. Someone wants me destroyed professionally and personally. The photographer captured every word, every expression. This interview would either save my career or end it permanently. Who would have the resources and motivation for such elaborate sabotage? This was the moment. I could name names. Celeste Dubois. The fashion establishment that saw me as a threat. But accusations without absolute proof could backfire spectacularly. Anyone who benefits from my failure. Anyone who sees independent designers as threats to established power structures. Anyone who mistakes cruelty for strength. Isabella made notes on her tablet. And Alexander Volkov? What's his role in this conspiracy theory? That's what I'm trying to determine. Either he's a victim being used to manipulate me, or he's a willing participant in my destruction. The interview published within hours. Fashion Forward magazine's digital edition featured my photo on the cover with the headline, "Fighting Back, Sophia Chen speaks out against fashion's dirty war." The response was immediate and violent. My phone exploded with calls from reporters, supporters, and threats from unknown numbers. Social media became a battlefield. Team Sophia versus Team Fashion Establishment. But the most important response came from Alexander himself. He arrived at my atelier that evening without warning. No appointment. No courtesy call. Just appeared in my office like a storm cloud gathering. "You've made a serious mistake," he said without preamble. Have I? Which mistake was that? Defending myself against lies? Refusing to be destroyed quietly? You've accused me of orchestrating your downfall. That's both false and dangerous. I studied his face carefully. The controlled anger seemed genuine. But Alexander was a master manipulator. Genuine emotions were just another tool in his arsenal. Then explain the photos. Explain how images exist of events that never happened. I can't explain what I haven't seen. I showed him the restaurant photo on my phone. His reaction was immediate and unmistakable. Genuine shock. Complete bewilderment. For the first time since I'd known him, Alexander looked vulnerable. "This is impossible," he said, studying the image. "I've never been to Alain Ducasse with you. I've never been to Alain Ducasse with anyone in the past 6 months. Then how do you explain this?" "I can't." He looked up from the phone, his expression troubled. "But I know who can." Alexander's admission changed everything. If he wasn't behind the photos, then who was? And why frame us both? "There's something you need to know about my business arrangements," he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "I don't work alone. I have silent partners." "What kind of partners?" "The kind who prefer anonymity. Who make investments through shell companies and offshore accounts. Who value discretion above everything else." My blood chilled. "Are you talking about criminals?" "I'm talking about people who operate in gray areas. Legal gray areas. Moral gray areas. People who see fashion as just another commodity to be bought, sold, and manipulated." He pulled out his phone and showed me a series of financial documents. Bank transfers. Investment agreements. Corporate structures so complex they looked like labyrinths. 6 months ago, my primary investor demanded I expand operations. Acquire more designers. Build a larger portfolio. When I told him about your talent, he became very interested. Interested how? He wanted complete control. Not just of your current work, but of your future output. Your brand. Your image. Everything. The pieces were starting to fit together in a horrifying pattern. And when you couldn't deliver complete control? He decided to acquire it through other means. Scandal. Blackmail. Destruction and reconstruction under his terms. I felt sick. Who is he? Alexander's hesitation told me everything. This wasn't just business anymore. This was dangerous. His name is Viktor Petrov. Russian oligarch. Oil, gas, international investments. He collects things. Art, real estate, politicians. And now, apparently, fashion designers. Viktor Petrov. The name felt familiar. Where had I heard it before? Then I remembered. Katerina Petrov. The lead model from my fashion show. The one who had asked if I knew who I was. Katerina, I whispered. His daughter, Alexander confirmed. And your biggest advocate in this mess. She's been trying to protect you without her father knowing. Within an hour, Katerina appeared at my atelier. Without makeup, without her model armor, she looked younger. More human. More afraid. You spoke to Alexander, she said. It wasn't a question. Your father is trying to destroy my career. My father destroys everything he can't own. It's his nature. She walked to my window, looking out at Paris. But you're not just another acquisition to him. You're proof of concept. What do you mean? He believes he can manufacture fashion stars. Take unknowns, give them resources, control their success, own their output. You were supposed to be his prototype. The cold calculation was breathtaking. I wasn't just an investment. I was an experiment. And when I didn't cooperate? He decided to break you down completely. Then rebuild you as he wanted. More compliant. More grateful. More owned. Katerina turned from the window, her expression fierce. But he underestimated you. You fought back instead of breaking. That's made you dangerous to him. Dangerous how? Because other designers might follow your example. Might refuse to be owned. Might choose independence over security. She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of photos. Other young designers. Other promising careers. All now working for companies owned by her father's network. Some chose to join willingly after seeing what happened to those who refused. Others were persuaded through various means. Blackmail. Among other methods. My father has many tools for persuasion. I studied the photos of designers who had surrendered their independence. They looked successful, wealthy, and utterly hollow. Why are you helping me? Because I'm tired of watching my father destroy beautiful things. And because you remind me of who I used to be before I learned that fighting him was impossible. Her words carried the weight of personal defeat. But also something else. Hope, maybe. Or vicarious rebellion. What happens now? Now he escalates. The affair photos were just testing your reaction. Seeing how you'd respond to pressure. Since you fought back instead of submitting, he'll move to more serious measures. More serious how? Criminal allegations. Financial impropriety. Things that can't be dismissed as industry gossip. My world tilted sideways. This wasn't just about fashion anymore. This was about freedom. About the right to exist independently in a world where powerful men collected human beings like art. The tabloids hit newsstands at dawn. Every major publication in Europe carried the story. Fashion's forbidden affair screamed from covers featuring the manipulated restaurant photo. The articles were masterfully written. Suggestive without being libelous. They painted me as an ambitious social climber who had seduced my older, married investor. Alexander was portrayed as a successful businessman led astray by a younger woman's charms. The details were devastatingly specific. Intimate dinners at exclusive restaurants. Private trips to his country estate. Secret meetings in luxury hotels. All fabricated, but all plausible enough to seem credible. By noon, my phone was ringing constantly. Reporters, gossip bloggers, scandal-hungry media outlets all wanted comments, confirmations, denials. The fashion industry, which had been watching my plagiarism scandal with professional interest, was now consuming my personal destruction as entertainment. Marie fielded calls while I read every article, studied every photo, analyzed every claim. The attention to detail was extraordinary. Someone had spent months creating this narrative. There are photographers outside, Marie said, hanging up from another interview request. Lots of them. I looked out my window. The street below was crowded with paparazzi, reporters, and curious onlookers. My private atelier had become a media circus. We can't leave, I said. Not without running a gauntlet. Maybe that's the point. Maybe they want you trapped. She was right. This wasn't just scandal. This was siege warfare. Keep me isolated, unable to work, unable to defend myself effectively. But isolation worked both ways. They couldn't reach me either. Victoria Sterling arrived through the building's service entrance, avoiding the media circus out front. She carried a briefcase and wore an expression that could have frozen champagne. Well, she said, surveying the chaos from my window, they certainly know how to make a statement. They're destroying me systematically. They're trying to. There's a difference. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder thick with documents. Marcus has been busy. Digital forensic analysis of every photo, every story, every claim. I opened the folder. technical reports, metadata analysis, timeline reconstructions. It was overwhelming but also hopeful. What did he find? That whoever is orchestrating this has made mistakes. Small ones, but mistakes nonetheless. The restaurant photo was taken on a Tuesday. Alain Ducasse is closed on Tuesdays. The lighting in several images is wrong for the claimed times of day. Most importantly, your phone's GPS data proves you were nowhere near these alleged meeting locations. Evidence. Real, provable evidence of fabrication. But would anyone care about technical details when the scandal was so entertaining? We need to be strategic about how we release this information, Victoria continued. Drop it all at once and it gets lost in the noise. Parcel it out carefully and we control the narrative. What do you suggest? We give them a bigger story. Something so shocking that it makes your alleged affair look like minor gossip. She pulled out another document. Financial records. Corporate filings. Investment disclosures. Viktor Petrov doesn't just collect designers. He owns judges, politicians, media outlets. The network behind your destruction extends far beyond fashion. This is about power on a scale most people can't imagine. The scope was breathtaking. My personal scandal was just one small part of a larger system of control and manipulation. Are you suggesting we expose his entire operation? I'm suggesting we make ourselves too dangerous to destroy quietly. Sometimes the best defense is mutually assured destruction. As evening fell, a new photo appeared online. Not on major news sites, but on fashion blogs and social media. It showed Alexander and me at what appeared to be an intimate dinner, but this photo was different. The lighting was softer. The angle more suggestive. My expression looked vulnerable, almost loving. But I recognized the location immediately. It was my own atelier. The meeting table where we discussed business. Someone had manipulated the lighting, adjusted the angles, changed the context entirely. The photo went viral within hours. #Sophia Affair trending globally. Comments ranged from supportive to vicious. Some people defended me as a victim of manipulation. Others condemned me as a homewrecker and social climber. But buried in the social media storm were comments that made my blood run cold. People claiming to have seen us together at locations I'd never visited. Witnesses to meetings that had never happened. Either these people were paid to lie, or the conspiracy was deeper than I'd imagined. Late that night, as I sat in my besieged atelier reading the endless stream of comments and accusations, a new message appeared on my phone. This time it wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Café de la Paix. Come alone. It's time you learned the truth about who's really behind this. And why they'll never stop until they own you completely. A friend who knows. Café de la Paix sat in the heart of Paris like a monument to old-world elegance. Gold fixtures, marble columns, mirrors that had reflected a century of secrets. The perfect place for a clandestine meeting. I arrived early, choosing a corner table with clear views of all entrances. The cafe was busy enough to provide cover, but not so crowded that conversations couldn't be private. At exactly 3 p.m., Thomas Beaumont appeared. Not unexpected, but not entirely welcome either. Our history was complicated, and his recent warnings had proven accurate but hadn't prevented disaster. You look tired, he said, settling into the chair across from me. I look besieged. There's a difference. He ordered coffee for both of us, playing the role of casual acquaintance in case anyone was watching. But his expression was serious. The situation is worse than you know, he said quietly. The affair scandal is just the opening move. They're preparing something that will destroy more than your reputation. Criminal charges? Financial crimes. Tax evasion. Money laundering through your business accounts. They've been moving money through your corporate structure without your knowledge. My coffee cup rattled against its saucer. My hands were shaking. That's impossible. I control all my accounts. Do you? Think carefully about every contract you've signed, every authorization you've given Alexander. He's had months to establish the paper trail they need. The implications were staggering. Not just career destruction, but prison. Complete annihilation of everything I'd built and everything I could ever build. Why are you telling me this? Because despite everything, I still believe you deserve to know what you're facing. And because... He hesitated. Because I have feelings for you that complicate everything. The confession hung between us like unexploded ordnance. Personal feelings in the middle of a war for survival. Thomas, I can't. I know. I know you can't trust anyone right now. But I need you to know that not everyone in this industry wants to see you destroyed. He slid a business card across the table. Simple black type on cream paper. If you decide to run, call this number. New identity, new life, somewhere they can't reach you. And if I decide to fight? then you need to accept that you might lose everything, including your freedom. That evening, Alexander called. His voice was strained, desperate in a way I'd never heard before. We need to meet. Tonight. There's something you need to see before tomorrow's headlines. I'm not meeting you anywhere. Everything gets twisted, photographed, manipulated. Then I'm coming to you. Don't let anyone else in. Don't answer any calls. What I have to show you changes everything. He arrived after midnight, looking haggard and frightened. Gone was the composed businessman. This was someone running from something bigger than scandal. They're moving faster than I anticipated, he said, pulling out a laptop. Look at this. The screen showed financial records. My business accounts. Money flowing in and out in patterns that made no sense. Large deposits followed immediately by transfers to offshore accounts. This is impossible, I said. I never authorized these transactions. You didn't have to. The contracts you signed gave me discretionary authority over business expenses. I've been moving money to protect it from seizure. But they've been recording every transaction. Recording for what? For the criminal charges they're filing tomorrow. Money laundering, tax evasion, conspiracy to commit fraud. The evidence looks overwhelming. I stared at the screen, watching my financial destruction play out in real time. Every transaction could be interpreted as criminal behavior. Every movement of money looked suspicious when viewed through the right lens. You set me up. No. His voice was firm, desperate. I was trying to protect both of us. But they've twisted everything. Made legitimate business look criminal. Who's they, Alexander? Give me names. Give me proof. He closed the laptop and looked at me with something that might have been regret. Victor Petrov. Celeste Dubois. A network of people who see talented individuals as resources to be acquired or eliminated. They offered me a choice. Deliver you willingly or watch us both burn. And you chose? I chose to try to save what I could. But I underestimated their reach. Their patience. Their ruthlessness. A sound from outside made us both freeze. Car doors slamming. Heavy footsteps on stairs. They're here, Alexander whispered. Through my window, I could see unmarked cars. Men in suits. The methodical efficiency of law enforcement. This is it, I said. This is how they finish me. Alexander grabbed my shoulders. There's still time. The service elevator. The parking garage. I have a car waiting. Running makes me look guilty. Staying makes you a prisoner. The sound of footsteps was getting closer. Deliberate. Inevitable. I looked around my atelier one last time. The space where I'd created my dreams. Where I'd built something beautiful from nothing. Where I'd learned that success could be more dangerous than failure. The choice was simple and impossible. Run and lose everything I'd built. Stay and lose everything I could ever build. The footsteps stopped outside my door. Someone knocked. 3 sharp raps. Police. Open up. I looked at Alexander one last time. His face was pale, desperate, genuinely frightened. Whether he was my savior or my destroyer, he was offering me a choice. Freedom meant running. Justice meant staying and fighting. But in a system rigged against me, was there really a difference? The knocking came again, louder, more insistent. I thought about my grandmother's words. Beautiful things come from broken places. Maybe it was time to see just how broken I could become. And just how beautiful I could make my revenge. I walked to the door and turned the locks. One by one. Each click echoing in the silence like a countdown. When they arrested me, they would get exactly what they expected. A frightened young designer overwhelmed by forces beyond her control. What they wouldn't get was the truth. Not yet. Because sometimes the best way to win a war is to let your enemies think they've already won. The door opened, and my real education began. The handcuffs were cold against my wrists, but my mind was burning with clarity. As they led me away from my atelier, past the cameras and shouting reporters, I wasn't thinking about prison or criminal charges. I was thinking about chess. How sometimes you have to sacrifice your queen to win the game. What they didn't know was that while they were busy arresting me, my real work was just beginning. Because the one thing more powerful than destroying someone's reputation is letting them destroy themselves. And Fashion Week was only 6 weeks away. The Paris police holding cell smelled like disinfectant and desperation. 3 other women shared the space with me. Prostitutes, pickpockets, the usual casualties of city life. They looked at me with curiosity, then dismissed me as another rich girl who'd gotten too clever for her own good. But rich girls don't usually have visitors at 3 a.m. Victoria Sterling appeared like an apparition in expensive silk. She'd somehow convinced the desk sergeant to allow a private consultation with my attorney. The guard walked away with suspiciously heavy pockets. "Well," she said, settling onto the bench beside me, "this is dramatically inconvenient." "Is that your legal opinion?" "My legal opinion is that you're brilliantly fucked unless we move very quickly." She opened her purse and withdrew a small recording device. "Tell me everything. Start with Alexander's midnight confession." For the next hour, I laid out everything I knew. The financial manipulation. Viktor Petrov's collection of designers. Katerina's warnings. Thomas's escape route. The entire conspiracy that had been building around me like a web. Victoria listened without interruption, her expression growing more dangerous with each revelation. "They've overplayed their hand," she finally said. "Arresting you makes this a legal matter instead of just industry gossip. That means discovery. Depositions. Evidence that can't be manipulated or dismissed. Assuming I live long enough to see trial." "Oh, darling, you're not going to trial. You're going to Fashion Week." I stared at her. "I'm in jail on money laundering charges. How exactly am I going to Fashion Week?" Her smile was arctic. "Because in 6 hours you're going to be released on bail. In 12 hours you're going to be fitted for the most important dress of your life. And in 6 weeks you're going to walk into that tent with such devastating beauty that everyone will forget you were ever accused of anything." "Victoria, that's insane. Insanity is letting them win without a fight. What I'm proposing is war." Victoria's lawyer was a woman who looked like she could negotiate with the devil and come out ahead. Marguerite Roussel had defended presidents, prime ministers, and at least 3 war criminals. The judge clearly knew her reputation. The prosecutor argued I was a flight risk. International connections, substantial assets, pending criminal charges in a complex financial crimes case. Standard arguments delivered with bureaucratic efficiency. Marguerite destroyed him in under 10 minutes. "Your Honor, my client is a celebrated fashion designer whose entire career is built in Paris. She has no criminal history, substantial community ties, and has cooperated fully with this investigation. The charges against her are based entirely on financial transactions she never authorized, conducted by a business partner who has since disappeared." Alexander had disappeared. Sometime between my arrest and this hearing, he had vanished completely. His hotel room was empty. His phone went straight to voicemail. Even his car was gone. "Furthermore," Marguerite continued, "the timing of these charges is suspect. My client's reputation has been systematically attacked for weeks. Now, just before Fashion Week, she faces arrest on charges that conveniently remove her from competition. This appears less like justice and more like industrial sabotage." The judge granted bail. 500,000 euros, which Victoria paid without blinking. As we walked out of the courthouse, she leaned close. "Alexander's disappearance isn't coincidence. Victor is cleaning house. Removing loose ends. You need to be very careful about who you trust from now on. Starting with you? Starting with everyone. Including me." Back at my atelier, now unsealed by police but still swarming with forensic accountants, I found an unexpected visitor. Amélie Laurent sat in my office like she owned it. French cinema royalty. 3-time Oscar winner. Fashion icon who could make or destroy designers with a single red carpet choice. "You look terrible," she said without preamble. "Prison chic isn't my best look." She laughed, a sound like silver bells in a hurricane. "I've worn prison chic. It photographs better than you'd think." She stood and walked to my design wall, studying the sketches that hadn't been confiscated as evidence. "These are extraordinary. Raw. Desperate. Perfect for what I have in mind." "What do you have in mind?" "The Oscars are in 3 weeks. I need 2 gowns. One for the red carpet, one for the after party. Something that makes a statement about beauty rising from destruction." My heart stopped. The Academy Awards. Global audience of over 1 billion people. The most watched fashion moment of the year. "Amélie, I'm facing criminal charges. Designing for you could damage your reputation." "Darling, I've been married 5 times, arrested twice, and once punched a paparazzi photographer. My reputation survives on controversy. The question is whether your talent survives scandal." She pulled out a tablet and showed me preliminary sketches. Her vision was ambitious. Architectural silhouettes. Hand-beaded surfaces that would catch every camera flash. Colors that would photograph like captured lightning. "I want people to see these gowns and forget every negative story they've ever heard about you. I want them to remember why they fell in love with your work. Why would you take this risk for me?" Her expression grew serious. "Because 20 years ago, I was where you are now. Destroyed by men who thought they could own me. Someone took a chance on me when no one else would. Now I'm returning the favor." With Amélie's commission came salvation and impossible pressure. 3 weeks to create 2 gowns that would either resurrect my career or bury it completely. Gabriella returned immediately, bringing 2 other seamstresses I'd never met, but who worked with museum-quality precision. No sleep, Gabriella announced. No social life. No distractions. We create miracles or we fail spectacularly. The red carpet gown was inspired by phoenix feathers. Black silk base with hand-applied crystals and gradients from deep amber to brilliant gold. Each crystal was individually placed to create the illusion of wings spreading with every movement. The silhouette was architectural but fluid, structured but alive. The after-party dress was completely different. White silk cut like liquid mercury. Minimal beading but strategic lighting effects that would make Amelie appear to glow from within. Elegant where the first was dramatic, subtle where the first was bold. Working on these gowns felt like coming back to life. For 18 hours a day, I forgot about criminal charges and conspiracy theories. There was only silk and crystal, needle and thread, the ancient alchemy of transforming fabric into dreams. But late at night, when the atelier was quiet and I worked alone by lamplight, reality crept back in. The trial was scheduled to begin right after Fashion Week. Viktor Petrov's network was still out there, still dangerous. Alexander's disappearance suggested loose ends were being tied up permanently. I was creating beauty while building my own funeral pyre. 2 weeks before the Oscars, disaster struck with surgical precision. I arrived at my atelier to find the red carpet gown destroyed. Not damaged. Destroyed. Someone had taken scissors to months of work, cutting through silk and crystal with methodical efficiency. The security footage showed a figure in dark clothing entering through the service entrance at 3 a.m. Face covered, movements professional, no hesitation or uncertainty. This wasn't vandalism. This was assassination. Gabriella found me standing over the ruined dress, tears streaming down my face. The destruction was so complete that rebuilding was impossible. We had 1 week to create a replacement for the most important commission of my career. "We start over," she said simply. "There's no time." "Then we make time. We work 24 hours. We bring in more people. We do whatever it takes." Her loyalty was overwhelming. She had nothing to gain from supporting me and everything to lose. But she stayed anyway. Within hours, she had assembled a team of 6 seamstresses, 2 beaters, and a pattern maker who worked with surgical precision. My atelier became a factory operating at impossible speed. But sabotage has many forms. The next morning, 3 of our new seamstresses called in sick. The day after that, our crystal supplier claimed there had been a miscommunication about our order. Then our silk vendor announced that our credit had been suspended pending account review. Someone was systematically dismantling our ability to work. But they had underestimated both our determination and Victoria Sterling's resources. Victoria arrived with solutions. New suppliers who didn't care about gossip. Emergency couriers who could source materials from anywhere in Europe. Most importantly, she brought her own team of artisans who worked outside the traditional fashion industry networks. "They control the established supply chains," she explained. "But luxury has always survived by finding alternative routes. We're going underground." Victoria's solution was elegant and dramatic. A hidden workshop in the basement of her building, equipped with everything we needed and completely invisible to industrial espionage. Her personal seamstresses worked alongside mine, sharing techniques perfected over decades in the highest levels of luxury fashion. The replacement gown evolved into something more powerful than the original. Instead of phoenix feathers, we created dragon scales. Black silk base with crystals arranged in overlapping patterns that created depth and movement. The beading was 3-dimensional, catching light from impossible angles and throwing it back as fire. But the real innovation was structural. Hidden LED filaments woven into the beading circuit, powered by a battery pack concealed in the dress's foundation. When activated, the gown would literally glow, transforming Amelie into a living constellation. "This is beyond fashion," said Victoria's head seamstress. "This is engineering disguised as art." The technology was invisible but transformative. From a distance, the gown would appear to be made of captured starlight. Up close, the precision of the beadwork would be breathtaking. It was simultaneously ancient craftsmanship and future innovation. Working in secret also protected us from further sabotage. No one knew where we were or what we were creating. For the first time in months, I could work without looking over my shoulder. But secrecy came with isolation. No progress photos for social media. No behind-the-scenes content to build anticipation. If the gowns were spectacular, their impact would be complete surprise. If they failed, there would be no sympathy for the effort. 3 days before the Oscars, Thomas appeared at the secret workshop like a ghost materializing from shadows. He'd somehow tracked me down despite all our security precautions. "You need to stop," he said without preamble. "Stop what?" "Working. Creating. Fighting back. You need to accept reality." Viktor Petrov doesn't just destroy careers. He destroys lives. Permanently. He pulled out his phone and showed me a news article. Alexander's body had been found in the Seine. Apparent suicide, according to police. No signs of struggle. A note expressing remorse for financial crimes. My blood turned to ice. They killed him. They cleaned up a loose end. And you're the next one on their list. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just about controlling the fashion industry. This was about life and death. Real stakes. Final consequences. I can get you out, Thomas continued. Tonight. New identity, new life, somewhere they'll never find you. I looked around the workshop. 6 seamstresses bent over their work, creating something miraculous from silk and crystal. Gabriella fitting the final pieces of beadwork with surgical precision. Victoria coordinating logistics with the efficiency of a general planning a campaign. All of this effort. All of this loyalty. All of this hope. And let them win? And let yourself live. The choice was cruel and simple. Safety meant abandoning everyone who had supported me. Justice meant risking everything, including my life. But I had learned something important during these weeks of crisis. Some things are worth dying for. And some victories are worth any price. I'm not running, Thomas. Then you're committing suicide. Maybe. Or maybe I'm finally learning how to fight. Oscar night arrived like a storm of anticipation and terror. Amelie arrived at my hidden workshop 6 hours before the ceremony for final fittings and preparations. She looked at the completed gowns with something approaching religious awe. These aren't dresses, she whispered. These are weapons. The red carpet gown fit her like liquid courage. The dragon scale beating moved with every breath, creating patterns that seemed alive. When we activated the LED system, she transformed into something mythological. Beauty made manifest. Power disguised as elegance. How do I look? She asked, studying herself in the mirror. Like someone who could conquer the world. Perfect. Because that's exactly what we're about to do. The after-party dress was equally stunning but completely different. Minimal where the first was maximal, subtle where the first was bold. The white silk seemed to emit its own light, making Amelie appear angelic after the dramatic power of the red carpet look. Victoria arrived with a security team and a convoy of cars. Time to make history, she announced. As we prepared to leave for the ceremony, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Beautiful work. Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts. Tomorrow we finish what we started. VP. Viktor Petrov. Watching. Waiting. Promising that success tonight would only make tomorrow's destruction more satisfying. But I was past caring about threats. For the first time in months, I had created something purely beautiful. Something that existed beyond scandal and conspiracy. Art that would outlive whoever tried to destroy it. Let him come. Let them all come. I was ready. The Academy Awards red carpet stretched like a golden river through Hollywood glamour. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted questions. The entire world watched as fashion transformed celebrity into mythology. Amelie stepped out of the car and the world stopped. The dragon scale gown caught every camera flash and threw it back as fire. The LED system created subtle illumination that made her appear to glow from within. She moved like liquid power, every step choreographed perfection. The crowd went silent, then erupted in applause. Photographers fought for better angles. Fashion commentators struggled for adequate words. Social media exploded with images that would define red carpet moments for decades. Who designed this masterpiece? Shouted a reporter. Sophia Chen, Amelie replied, her voice carrying across the chaos. The most talented designer of her generation. And anyone who says otherwise is a fool. The vindication was immediate and overwhelming. Fashion blogs crashed trying to post analysis. Industry insiders who had written me off as scandal-plagued began calling for interviews. Orders started flooding in from celebrities who wanted to be associated with this level of artistry. But the most important response came from Viktor Petrov himself. A text message that arrived as Amelie walked into the ceremony. Impressive, but temporary. Check your email. The email contained photos that made my blood freeze. Not of me this time. Of Amelie. Compromising images from her past that would destroy her reputation if released. The message was clear. Success at the Oscars meant destruction for anyone who supported me. The after-party was held at the Beverly Hills Hotel, luxury and power concentrated in palm-lined perfection. Amelie changed into the white silk gown, transforming from dragon to angel, from power to purity. She looked ethereal, untouchable, perfect. But I knew that somewhere in that crowd were Victor's people. Watching. Recording. Preparing to destroy her the way they had destroyed me. The gown was perfect. The fit was flawless. The photography was magical. Everything we had worked for was succeeding beyond imagination. That's when disaster struck. Amelie was standing near the pool, being photographed by Vogue, when something went wrong with the dress. The white silk began changing color, spreading from the hem upward like spilled wine. Not a stain. A chemical reaction built into the fabric itself. Within minutes, the elegant white gown had become a mottled, discolored mess. Amelie looked like she had been attacked by invisible forces. The photographs went from magical to humiliating in real time. The sabotage was so sophisticated it could only have been planned for months. Someone had infiltrated our supply chain at the deepest level. They had given us fabric that looked perfect but contained delayed destruction. As Amelie stood there, her dress ruined before the world's cameras, I realized the true cruelty of Victor's game. He had allowed us to succeed spectacularly before destroying us publicly. The higher we climbed, the further we would fall. But as I watched Amelie handle the disaster with grace and humor, turning fashion catastrophe into charming anecdote, I realized something important. They could destroy my dresses. They could ruin my reputation. They could even threaten my life. But they couldn't touch the one thing that mattered most. The ability to create beauty from chaos. To find strength in destruction. To rise from ashes more dangerous than before. The dress was ruined. But the designer was just getting started. The after-party dress disaster became the most talked-about fashion moment in Oscar history. Video footage showed the white silk changing colors in real time, transforming Amelie from angel to abstract art. Fashion experts debated whether it was intentional artistic statement or catastrophic malfunction. But instead of destroying Amelie's reputation, the incident made her legendary. Her graceful handling of the crisis, her ability to laugh at fashion's absurdity, her transformation of disaster into triumph, all became part of Oscar folklore. Social media exploded with support. Hashtag Team Amelie and hashtag Sophiachin trending globally. People who had never heard of me before were sharing images of the dragon-scale gown, calling it revolutionary, transformative, the future of fashion. The sabotage had backfired spectacularly. Instead of humiliating us, it had created sympathy and admiration. Instead of proving my incompetence, it had demonstrated resilience and innovation. Within 24 hours, I had received commission requests from 12 A-list celebrities, 3 fashion magazines, and 2 museum exhibitions. The scandal that was supposed to end my career had launched it into the stratosphere. But Viktor Petrov's response was swift and vicious. The lawsuit hit like a nuclear explosion in the fashion world. Filed simultaneously in Paris, London, and New York, it accused me of theft, fraud, conspiracy, and industrial espionage. The plaintiffs included 3 major fashion houses, 2 textile manufacturers, and a technology company claiming I had stolen proprietary LED integration techniques. The damages sought were staggering. 50 million euros in compensation. Complete forfeiture of all my designs. Permanent injunction preventing me from working in fashion anywhere in the world. But the most devastating accusation was personal. The lawsuit claimed that my relationship with Alexander had been part of an elaborate scheme to steal trade secrets and sell them to competitors. Every meeting, every conversation, every moment of our professional relationship was reframed as criminal conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming and obviously fabricated. Financial records showing payments I had never received. Correspondence I had never written. Testimony from witnesses I had never met. An entire criminal conspiracy created from digital manipulation and purchase lies. Victoria found me sitting in my atelier, staring at the legal documents that would destroy everything I had rebuilt. "They're not just trying to bankrupt you," she said. "They're trying to erase you completely. Make it impossible for you to exist in this industry. Can we fight this? We can try. But the resources behind this lawsuit are essentially unlimited. They can file motions, demand depositions, create legal complications for years. Even if we eventually win, the cost will destroy you financially." I looked around my atelier one last time. The space where I had created dreams. Where I had learned that beauty could come from broken places. Where I had discovered that some wars are worth fighting regardless of the cost. "Then it's time to stop playing defense," I said. "It's time to go nuclear." That night, I made phone calls that would change everything. To journalists I had met during the scandal coverage. To fashion insiders who had seen the corruption from within. To financial investigators who specialized in tracing oligarch money through international networks. If Viktor Petrov wanted to destroy me completely, he had just given me permission to destroy him right back. The documents I had been collecting. The recordings Victoria had made. The evidence of systematic manipulation and control throughout the fashion industry. All of it was about to become public in ways that would make my personal scandals look like minor gossip. Because the one thing more dangerous than a designer with nothing to lose is a designer with evidence of how the entire system really works. Fashion Week was in 2 days. They thought they had trapped me in legal quicksand, made it impossible for me to show my work or defend my reputation. Instead, they had just given me the biggest stage in the world to expose everything. Some battles are won with dresses. Others are won with truth. And I was about to weaponize both. Next episode preview. They sued me for 50 million euros, thinking money was my weakness. They were wrong. My weakness was believing people could be trusted. But now the gloves are off and Fashion Week is about to become a war zone. Because while they were busy destroying my dresses, I was collecting their secrets. And some secrets are worth more than all the money in the world. The revolution starts now.